This insurance policy should have been thrown away. My sister held the paper between two fingers like it was dirty, then dropped it straight into the trash. Everyone in the living room laughed. Someone said, "Grandma always had bad judgment. Giving something like this to him, of all people." My sister leaned back on the couch and smirked. If Grandma had anything valuable, she would have given it to me. This is just a sympathy gift. He doesn't even know what to do with it. All eyes turned to me. They expected anger, or pleading, or at least embarrassment. I stayed quiet. The paper had my grandmother's name on it, her handwriting in blue ink, the last thing she had ever handed to me herself. In that moment, something inside me became very clear. People don't reveal their character when things are calm. They reveal it when they think you're small. I walked to the trash can, took the policy out, folded it neatly, and slipped it into my pocket. My sister laughed louder. "Seriously? The director already said it's worthless, expired, useless. Just let it go." I nodded once. No argument, no explanation. Because I had learned something important a long time ago. Noise feels powerful until silence starts building something real. Dinner went on like nothing happened. They joked about me, about the garbage policy, about how Grandma must have been confused. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain. I didn't even look up. When the plates were cleared, I stood, went to my room, and quietly packed a small suitcase. 2 shirts, my notebook, and the policy file. In the mirror, my face looked calm. Not angry, not hurt, just certain. As I walked past the living room, my sister called out, "Good luck with your useless paper." I smiled faintly and kept walking. They thought they had thrown away a worthless document. They had no idea they had just started the most important chapter of my life. They thought they had won. They had no idea what I was about to do next. 3 months passed. I stopped explaining myself to anyone. I moved into a tiny rented room above a noisy mechanic shop. The paint was peeling, the fan shook when it turned, and the mattress felt like cardboard. But it was quiet enough to think. Every morning before sunrise, I read that policy again. Not because I expected money, but because I trusted my grandmother. She was never careless. She was patient, precise. If she gave me something, it meant something. So I started asking questions. I visited the insurance office the name on the document belonged to. The receptionist barely looked at me. Another clerk told me the same thing my sister had shouted. Expired, useless. I didn't argue. I asked for copies. Old records, notes, anything. At night, I worked extra shifts, saved every rupee, learned about policies, clauses, beneficiary transfers, company mergers, forgotten accounts. Quietly, slowly. Meanwhile, back home, noise continued. My sister was fighting over money with our parents. Her business idea failed. Credit cards piled up. Arguments became routine. Every week someone messaged me with gossip. Your sister said you ran away with nothing. They're laughing at you again. They say Grandma wasted her gift. I replied with one word. Okay, because while they were talking, I was learning. One afternoon, an old clerk in the archive room looked at my papers longer than anyone else had. He frowned. Then he asked softly, "Where did you get this?" I said, "My grandmother." He checked another file, then another, then called someone upstairs. For a moment, the truth almost came out, but I didn't rush. I didn't celebrate. I didn't call home. I just thanked him and went back to work the next day like nothing had happened. Because real change doesn't make noise. It builds quietly where no one is looking. Back home, they were still laughing about the worthless policy. They were still discussing me like I was stuck in the past. They didn't know I had already stepped into a different future. They were still talking about me. I was already far ahead of them. 6 months later, I got a call from the regional office director. He asked me to come in and to bring a family member if I wanted. So I did. My sister walked in confidently, whispering, "Let's get this over with. I told you it's useless." The director placed 3 files on the table: old records, merger documents, beneficiary confirmations signed decades ago. He spoke calmly. The policy wasn't expired. It was converted during a company merger and attached to a long-term investment plan your grandmother maintained quietly for years. My sister's smile disappeared. He continued. She named only one beneficiary, and she updated it every year personally. He slid the final paper toward me. My name. The room went silent. My sister looked at me like she had never really seen me before. Then she started to say something, an apology, maybe. I didn't let her struggle. I just said, softly, "Grandma trusted me." That was enough. No anger, no lecture, no victory speech. When we walked out, she asked if I was coming home. I shook my head gently. "I wish you well, but I've moved forward." That day, nobody argued, nobody laughed, because sometimes the loudest lesson is delivered in silence. They thought I was weak because I was quiet. They didn't know I was simply busy becoming strong. News travels fast in families. Within a week, relatives who hadn't called me in years suddenly remembered my number. Messages came in one after another. "Proud of you. Grandma always loved you. Come visit sometime." I replied politely, but I didn't go back. Not because I was angry, because I had finally understood something. Respect that appears after success is not real respect. It's recognition. At home, things were quieter. My sister stopped making jokes about the policy. She started calling me with a softer voice. One evening she said, "I didn't know. I'm sorry." I believed her. But I also remember that night in the living room, the laughter, the dustbin, the certainty in her voice. So I answered calmly, "I'm not upset. I just won't forget." I used the money carefully, paid my debts, invested slowly, helped a few people who had once helped me when I had nothing, and I set aside a small scholarship in my grandmother's name. No announcement, no post, no credit, because real gratitude doesn't need an audience. Months later, at another family gathering, no one mocked me. No one interrupted me. When I spoke, they listened, not because I demanded respect, because silence had already done the work. I didn't try to win arguments anymore. I didn't try to explain my choices. I didn't try to prove my worth. I just lived quietly the way my grandmother had. And for the first time, the house that once echoed with laughter at my expense felt very, very quiet. That's when I realized something simple. People don't respect noise. They respect consistency. Silence is not weakness. It is preparation.